When we left for lunch, we were talking about that they were not, that C just means if they're not a high school graduate. So let's look. You've got your calculators. Let's add these up. If I add up the no column, that would give me 10, carry my 1, 7, 8, 9, 190 out of 500. Okay? If it wanted me to get a decimal, we just divide and so forth. Okay? And I'll tell you that it is 0.38. Okay, if you divide that as 0.38. All right. Now, I'm not going to worry about this, explain why it's not, but let's talk about finding the probability of G or H. Okay, of G or H. And so let's just kind of walk through that, how we do it. Okay, so the probability that yes, they are a graduate, or no, or yes, they are a graduate, and yes, they are a homeowner, okay? So let's start with yes, they are a graduate, okay? So for that first one, okay, so yes, they are a graduate, we'd add those two together. So 10, carry my 1, 11, carry my 1. So that would be 310 out of 500, okay? Then we want to know that, yes, they're a homeowner, okay? So I would add those two together, okay, from the yes, they're a homeowner. So, I'm going to have to do math in my head. 0, what is it, 330? 340 out of 500. Now, y'all, if I added 310 and 340, that's more than 500. That's too much, okay? So, of the pink circle and the blue circle, is there a group that got circled twice?
Yes.
Which group?
Yes to both.
The yes to both. So, we're going to subtract those 221, okay? So, when you're looking at a table, if you do both, then you got to take out, all right, what was circled both times. Okay, so we would subtract it, and then that would give me 429 out of 500. Okay, my decimal's 0.858. Right, so if anything is counted twice, we got to take it out. Okay, so that's important. Okay. All right, and then let's see this next one. It wants me to make a Venn diagram. Okay, make a Venn diagram. So I'm going to do the whole big box. Okay, we know in the end it should add up to 500, and we have 4 blanks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. In the middle is where our yes, yes goes. Right? What was my number for my yes, yes up there? 221. Okay, so it goes in the middle. Outside the circles is my no, no. Okay, so how many did I have in my no, no? 71. Okay. Now, we're going to let this first one be the graduates, and this one be the homeowner. Okay. And so let's just figure out who needs to go where, right? Okay, I've already used the 221, so I'm not going to use it again. I've already used the 71. I'm not going to use it again. Okay, which one needs to go in the graduate circle? Okay,
89.
The 89, good. Okay, the 89 says, yes, they're a graduate, but they're not a homeowner. Okay, that should only leave me one number that's left. What is it? 119, and it goes in my last circle. Okay, so yes, they're a homeowner, but no, they're not a graduate. Okay, what do you think about that? I'm not worried about example 4. Okay, so being sure we can make a Venn diagram. Right. Okay, so let's look at a couple of things. All right, I'm going to skip that first example because it's like we just did. Okay, so we're going to skip it. It's talking about the taco tongue and the evil eyebrow. All right, so same thing that we did. All right, but let's look at this one. Okay, let's look at example 2. A 2018 survey suggests that 51% of U.S. teenagers use Facebook, 72% use Instagram, and 38% do both. So let's say we select a teenager at random. What's the probability the student uses Facebook or Instagram. So anytime it's an or, we're going to add. Okay, so let's start with my Facebook. How many of them use Facebook? 51%. What would that be as a decimal? 0.51. Okay, so that's my Facebook. Plus, what's the probability that you use Instagram? 72. What would that be as a decimal? Okay. Does that add up to more than 1? Yeah. Okay. Which means we got to subtract out somebody. Well, we're going to subtract out the both. All right. How many of them do both? 38. So minus 0.38. Okay. And that's how we'd work that problem. All right. So convert them back to decimals and then do all of that. Should give you 0.85. Okay. So don't be surprised if you see one that's nothing but decimals or percents. Okay. Add together what they're actually looking for. Subtract anybody that's both. Okay. Anybody that's both. All right. And let's do one more Venn diagram just to be sure we get this. Okay. Because they can be a little bit confusing. All right. Here we go. So in a large apartment complex, 40% of the residents read USA Today. 25% read the New York Times. 5% read both. Okay? So they want me at first to make a Venn diagram. They said to label my events as A and B. A is USA Today. B is the New York Times. So let's do that. Okay, so circle, circle, and then my 4 blanks. Okay, A, B. Right? The easiest number to put in first is which one? The both. Okay, the both. So we don't want to put that percent in. Let's put a decimal in. What would 5% be as a decimal? 0.05 goes right here. Okay. Now, let's go back and read what they said. 40% are my USA Today, okay, which is my A, right? What would 40% be as a decimal? 0.40, okay? Now, the only problem with that is that that includes that 5% that I've already got listed, okay? So how would I get how many are left to read the USA Today? I'd subtract 40% minus 5%, so 0.4 minus 0.05. If I've got 40%, it includes that 5% we've already talked about. So what percent are left? 35. What decimal would that be? 0.35. Good. Okay. And then the last one, 25%, read the New York Times. Okay, so 25%, but I've already talked about the both, so let's take them out. So minus 5%. What does that leave me? 20%. What would that decimal be? 0.2. Okay, now I've got one more blank to fill in, but they didn't give me any numbers. All right, any ideas on how we might find it? Add them all up, subtract it from 1. Okay, add them all up, subtract them from 1. So I'm going to do 0.35 plus 0.05 plus 0.2. That gives me 0.55. And then I'm going to subtract from 1, which leaves me with what? 0.45. And that's what goes in that last blank. What?
0.05 plus 0.35.
Oh, it's 0.6, isn't it? Yep. Math. Thanks. That's what I get when I use my brain, y'all. Got to be careful. And then 1 minus 0.6 gives me 0.4. Yes, you're correct. Thank you very much. Okay. So we have to get that final blank doing that subtraction. All right, from 1. That's that complement rule from yesterday. Okay. Now, the last thing it says to find the probability that the person reads exactly one of the 2 papers. Okay. So they don't read both. They read exactly one. So that probability we're gonna use the parts where it's just the one, those outside circles. So 0.35 plus 0.2 gives me 0.55. Okay, so you just kind of have to look at what it's looking for. Okay. All right, Venn diagrams, two-way tables. You will need a calculator today. There's lots of adding and dividing, okay, and some subtracting. All right, so here is your assignment. There are 4 questions on it only. Okay, so we should be able to get those done relatively quickly. Let me export all of this so that I have it ready. Okay, and then I'll come help with questions.